Welcome back to BYO Beats Podcast, your beer and music podcast. We are here in our second week of our series of episodes with our guest, Matt Pieper, trumpet player extraordinaire out of Orlando. We are into segment number 3, which is the guilty pleasure. We got a fun beer for this. This is the old Michelob Ultra Superior Light Beer. Enjoyed by golfers everywhere. So, Matt, what makes this your guilty pleasure beer?
So, I feel like, oh yeah, we can swear on the podcast. I feel like everybody has to have their cheap, shitty domestic beer that they drink, and when everybody asks about it, there's no, it's whatever, like for some people, it's Miller High Life, the champagne of beer, for some people, it is Bud Light, too political. Never mind, unfollow. But then for me, it's Michelob Ultra. So it's just a cheap, shitty, tastes like water beer.
Looks
And I
like
mean, no,
water.
just yeah,
It
I
does.
mean,
Yo, okay, look. So this our logo for our prototype merch is on this side, but look, you can still see it.
You can see straight through. That's
yeah,
crazy.
his is especially watery. I feel like
Yeah,
me and Dawson's. It might be the lighting. Yeah, it might be the lighting, but I feel
it
like
probably.
ours still has a little hint of gold. But whatever lighting is going on Johnny's screen, man, that shit looks like straight water.
Oh man. And it
And
it tastes like
literally,
water too. Tastes
I
like water.
just had Labatt Blue, which is already pretty translucent, and this is, oh my god, it's water.
Yeah, this was all just a very big, elaborate ploy to make two craft beer aficionados drink Michelob Ultra on a podcast. So I'm tanking you guys so that big Michelob can come in.
I mean, hey, like honestly though, in terms of dietary things, like if you're a big beer person and you're just like, I don't want my beer belly anymore, and you need something to wane yourself off, 2.6 carbs in a beer,
Yeah.
I'm happy with it.
Oh, yeah.
95
Still
calories.
somehow rocking 4.2% as well, which is comparable to all those
Yeah,
other light beers.
exactly.
Yeah. They're very efficient with their distribution. Yeah, it's quite incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on multiple stints over the years of the keto diet. Once when I was an undergrad, and then once when Nathan and I met each other.
Yeah.
I had just moved up to Pittsburgh and I wanted to lose some weight, so I did the keto diet. And all you can drink on the keto diet, at least at that point in time, was Michelob Ultra. So like everybody else would be drinking these like great fancy beers at all the breweries that we went to, which more on that later. LMAO, I got a surprise for you.
So many.
Um,
Do
yeah,
you? Oh,
yeah. Oh, I got a surprise. Yeah, we'll see. You'll find out. But
I'm
yeah,
excited.
but Michelob Ultra was the only beer I could drink on keto. So like and I started a diet. This will be a fun time capsule for me to look at in however long it is before I see this, but like I'm getting married in like 9 months and I want to lose like 30 pounds, so I started a diet like a week or so ago. So I'm gearing up to be drinking a good bit of Michelob Ultra over the next couple months.
Wow.
Because that's what we're going to be at. Obviously, like if you're trying to lose weight, you just shouldn't drink too much alcohol in general.
It's
But
true.
if you're going to do it, make it be Mick.
Yeah, I
Uh,
also think I saw something, I don't know if this was a joke or not, but Ed Sheeran apparently lost a lot of weight by not drinking any beer, but just switching to vodka.
Ooh, this is a good experiment.
Interesting.
So I don't
Matt's
know.
like, fuck this Michelob
So,
shit.
so like, if it's like
Yeah.
corn is like corn vodka or potato vodka, are those both off for the keto diet? I don't know
You
enough
know,
about it.
I think maybe I don't know, because the second stint I did was when I started drinking bourbon a good bit. I got
Mm.
into sipping bourbon, and some bourbons that you can have are keto friendly. But then you'd be shocked because some bourbons you would think because it's like straight alcohol that it would have like no fucking, oh shoot, sorry,
You're fine.
carbs in it. Except like sometimes you'll have like a two-finger pour of bourbon that has like 9 net carbs, and you're like, where are they?
Right.
So
Yeah.
like, so
From
I
what?
like, yeah. So it's like with the potato vodka, it's like I don't know, maybe there's like a whole ass potato that some of it ended up in the 2 finger pour of the vodka that I have, and maybe that's all the net carbs. I don't know. I'd be interested.
Huh.
But
Cool.
yeah,
All
no,
right.
I mean the other alternative of that is like instead of losing weight with alcohol, you could just be like Post Malone and eternally smell like Bud Light, you
That's
know?
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Post Malone is the dream guest still for me on this show. And the idea would be only Bud Light
Yeah. Oh,
for every segment.
that oh dude, that would be amazing. That would be fantastic. He'd be an interesting podcast guest, I feel like. You
Yeah.
know, I
Well,
hope he
I've
never
seen
sees. Will you go first?
I've seen him on Rogan. They did Magic Mushrooms, and the show was the recording, like what they produced, was 3 hours long.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, dude, we cut our 3 hours down to like one. So ridiculous.
Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, like there's a story I heard about Post Malone at some point. I forget where it is. And hopefully he never sees this because if he does, he will never be a guest on your podcast. But apparently there was a time where like someone walked by him backstage at a concert and he just smells so bad that the person who walked by him like threw up in their mouth. Have you heard this before?
I have heard this.
I've
Yes,
never
this
heard
was
Yeah.
quite a while ago. This was like way before the haircut, way before the country music, way
Yes.
before like I think it was like barely post face tattoo.
Yeah, this is beer bongs and Bentleys era Post
Yeah,
Malone.
yeah,
Yeah, this isn't
So, like,
F1
10 years
Trilly
ago.
Post Malone. Yeah.
yeah. Very much not where he is now. So I don't know. I don't
Wow,
think he
that
would
was
hold it
10
against.
years ago.
Right?
Right?
Beer Bongs and Bentleys was 2015, right?
Yeah, be upset because I am. Holy crap! But
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh. Oh. On that note, let's listen to
That's
a
dark.
song. Let's listen to
Yeah.
a song that didn't come out 10 years ago. So, once again, new week, so I'm going to say it again. You can find all the songs we're listening to on the BYO Beats podcast, the complete collection playlist. It is linked in our link tree. That'll be linktr.ee/BYO Beats is our link tree, and it's like the third icon down. It says it right there. It's very easy to find. If you get the URL wrong, it's also available in our Instagram bio at BYOBeats_podcast there. You're going to scroll down until you find 360 by Charli XCX. That is the selection for Guilty Pleasure for today. We're going to take a quick listen to that and be right back. YouTubers, there should be a link on the screen to the official, what is it, like Vivo or whatever?
probably
Whoever. Official.
someone. Yeah, but yeah, over the break. Hit
Yep,
that
so
link
we're
up
going to
on the
listen to that and be right back. So we just heard 360 by Charli XCX. So, Matt, what makes this your guilty pleasure? If it wasn't abundantly obvious.
I mean, I feel like it is abundantly obvious, you know, like, but Brat's good music. Like, it's good to just listen to and bop and have a good time. I guess personal story associated with the song, not necessarily that it's like a guilty pleasure, is that when I go take auditions, I have an audition pump up playlist of non-classical music that I just like listen to and try to like get in a hype mood before I go out and play an audition. And I actually added this song to my playlist for the audition I won back in August. So
Nice.
Wow.
even and that was the only song I added. So even though obviously that wasn't what did it, you know, it's like there's always going to be like, huh, I wonder if Charli XCX is behind my success, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Good luck, charm.
Yep.
That's cool. So did you mentioned or we mentioned that this is the second time Charli XCX has been on the show. The first time was Vroom Vroom in Michael Lacasio's episode.
Season 1, big time throwback.
Yes. So you mentioned that Brat is significantly different than her other music. I mean, in terms of how very different this song is from Vroom Vroom, I would agree.
Mhm.
Did you have any experience with her before this album?
No, not that I knew of, but it's actually really funny. Quite literally the other day I was like on Apple Music and like a song popped up that I found out that she co-produced. And I can't remember what it was, but it was like a really big famous song. God, it's gonna kill me. It's gonna be one of those that I remember like the next time that we're going to be on here. But it was like she co-produced it. It's by somebody else, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And yeah, so I guess I had exposure to Charlie XCX before I even knew I had exposure to Charlie XCX as like a producer for a song, But like as far as like her personally, no, Brat's what got me onto it. It's a Brat summer, so
Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah.
Same thing happened to me with Tate McRae.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I knew one of her songs, and then I feel like I've said this on every show for the whole last month. So my favorite thing to do on Spotify is to go to my like songs and hit shuffle, and I find stuff that I didn't even know that I liked. So give me one moment to find which song it was.
Yeah, my experience with Tate McRae is I don't think I've ever actually listened to any of her songs, but I know like way too much about her because she's kind of ingrained in like the hockey community because she's Canadian.
Oh, really?
And
How's that?
well, I know she has one music video where it's like the music video is like hockey themed and she's like in the gear and like dancing sultrily in the locker room, and she did some performance at like one of the NHL like big games last year. It was like the Winter Classic or something like that
That's
last year.
interesting.
So 2023-24 season.
Her vibe
Yeah.
doesn't seem that it would fit hockey that well. I don't know.
I
The song I
think
was
it's just that
thinking of
she's
is-
Canadian, so that
Oh, that
that's-
would make okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. The song I was thinking of is Teenage Mind, one of her slow, sad boys. But I know that's not what she's known for, really. And we'll stop there
Yeah.
and keep going. We'll go back to Charlie XCX. I feel like there's two mindsets in terms of her, the overrated side and the oh my god she's amazing side, and we compared to Taylor Swift in the break. Obviously this is totally personal preference, so don't
please
internet
don't come for us.
yeah, hi internet, we're nice guys, just leave us alone. I did enjoy this more than a lot of the Taylor Swift that I've heard. It might not be quite as like catchy type music, but it definitely goes harder than the music I've heard Taylor Swift put out. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree, and I think part of it's a genre thing. Like this is definitely more like electro pop, like dance pop,
Gotcha.
where Taylor Swift is more poetic, country esque.
Yeah,
and I mean she has roots in country music.
Yeah,
So-
singer-songwriter is maybe where you're going. I don't know.
Right. We're looking at Taylor Swift, which is girl with guitar, versus this song by Charlie XCX, which is definitely like we've got a DJ involved.
Oh
Yeah.
So
To say
it's
the least.
totally different vibes.
Yeah.
And I guess I find myself more on that electronic side, personal fondness scale. So
Makes sense.
yeah,
No,
definitely enjoyed
I would
this.
agree. I would agree with all that. Yeah. The first time I heard Brat, like I actually really enjoyed it. I remember it was blowing up over the summer, and like I was seeing that shade of green that's on like the front of the album on like everywhere. Like everything was Brat, and then I'd be like, "What's Brat?" And they're like, "You just don't get it." And I was like, "All right," and I was like, "All right, cool. I feel gaslit. I'm never gonna listen to this damn album, Except then I finally one day I was like, all right, I'm gonna listen to it, and then that's the first song on the album, 360. The one we just listened to, and I heard that and I was like, okay, no, this hits. This is pretty good. And I listened to it the whole way through, and I was like, I know. I remember texting in my group chat with all like my friends who live around here, and I was like, guys, I know I'm a month and a half late, but Brad fucks.
Yeah.
I was like, and they were like, "Wow, that's crazy! I had no idea." And I'm like, "Yeah, shut up." Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, then now you're the person going, you don't get it.
yeah.
Yeah, so in the terms of like recent pop music blowing up, what's do you have any experience with like Chappell Roan?
I love
Because I
Chapel.
think these two artists are slightly adjacent, at least recently, in popularity.
Mm,
Yeah, agreed. I've heard a lot of people compare them. Not that they're the same style of music, like at
no.
all. They're
No.
very different because, like, I mean, you mentioned like singer-songwriter, like that's absolutely Chappell Roan, But like, I feel like the two albums just came to prominence around the same time because I don't even think they came out at the same time. Wasn't Midwest Princess actually like a year old before it like blew up? I think.
I think you're right. That's the album
Yeah,
with Got to Go and
Pink Pony Club.
yeah. And what's the
There's
other
other
one?
ones too, yeah.
We had one on the show for Weekend Run Club. No?
No.
There's
had-
another big
Oh,
song
we
from
got
it.
a
I just can't
couple.
remember what it is.
We did not have a Chappell Roan. We might have talked Chappell Roan, but
No,
we
we
didn't.
did. No, I promise you we did.
I will consult the playlist.
Yeah.
Good luck, babe.
Yes.
What? That was not on the...
What?
Silly Johnny. Silly Schvee.
Wait, let's see. Was
No,
that
we
on
didn't, man. We didn't.
Wait, that actually
Okay.
wasn't on Midwest Princess. It's a single that came out afterwards.
Y-
But
do you
still
It's
applies.
a single. Okay, it's not on the
Still
album.
applies. Still applies.
No, we didn't have it on the show, though. The Weekend Run Club, we had Bulletproof Love, Pierce the Veil. Oh, wait. Sorry. Kobayashi Maru from Origami Angel was first. Then The
Right.
Four Horsemen from Metallica.
Oh, I'm just thinking of the wrong episode, I think. Shit. Sorry, keep going though.
Johnny, if you don't go through every episode in the history of the show's songs right now, I'm going to be very upset.
Well, you should
Okay.
be able to search on the playlist.
Okay, I'll try that. But then it was Peacock Skeleton with Crooked
Wings,
Feathers.
Yeah. Feathers, yes.
Then
yes,
Feel Like Crab. Then You Can't Say Kingston Doesn't Love You. Title fight.
yes. Okay.
Here, I will find on this page. I will search
Maybe it was
Chappell
Road
Roan.
Road then?
There is no Chappell Roan on this playlist.
I'm so sad. Why did we talk about that then?
They probably just brought it up because Chappell Roan is like big gay
Hot
pop,
to go.
That's true. It is, yeah.
and Weekend Run Club is big gay rock.
Right.
Check
I
out
feel-
that episode if you don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, that shouldn't be the intro, but it's definitely a quotable moment for sure. Definitely
Hey,
a quotable
not my
moment.
words, Mitchell's words, not mine. But yeah, so I guess I know that there's a certain influence that Chappell Roan's music and Charli XCX's music have in the LGBT community. Do you find yourself involved in that at all? I guess we can cut this if it's too political.
No, it's not too political at all. Not at all, unless it's too political to you, Johnny. No, but anyways,
Some people get sore about it. I don't know.
No, I have some good friends who they have a very prominent LGBTQ community. Sadly, a lot of them are leaving Florida for obvious reasons. LOL. Except like she's had us over for a couple hangs, and it's very, very, very cool to interact with people and get perspectives on life that you've never seen before. But no, it is true. Like a lot of people like really identify with that music, and it speaks volumes, and it tells the story of a person who felt trapped in the life that someone else gave them for a long time, and then when they found themselves and branched out into being the person that they were, that they're happy with it. So yeah, I definitely feel like that identifies with the LGBTQ community. That's anthem, man.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
You got anything, Doss?
On Chappell Roan?
On anything that we've talked about?
Oh.
Just throwing it over to you. Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Well, you did.
Well, if you don't have anything, we can end.
Let's do it. Yeah. No,
All right,
I'm
we'll
I'm
rate.
good.
We'll do our
You're
ratings.
canceled.
We'll do our ratings for the Mickey Ultra.
Oh
I'll go
no.
first. Mickey Ultra, I think I got to give it a 2.5.
Mm.
It's just water. I guess it's technically beer, but I can't see myself ever reaching for this because I prefer other domestics when there are domestics involved, and I would never reach for this over a craft. And there's always, yeah, that's it. It's okay. If someone bought me it, I'd drink it, no problem. But
Man, this is a crazy podcast. You have guests on, and then you ask them to like bring their beers, and then you just shit on them.
So
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm
no,
joking. I'm joking.
we have had people that were less obvious about the joke than you just now. I think I got to join you on the 2.5. I was considering bringing it up a quarter of a point because of how healthy it is.
Diet conscience.
Yeah. But sorry, like Diet Pepsi doesn't get more points for being diet. So like,
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you on the 2.5, like, and I feel like a 2.5 is like a perfect place for Michelob Ultra because I think we've all deduced through this podcast that Michelob Ultra is basically water, and like water to me is like as neutral as you possibly could be of a drink, like it's not the best tasting thing you'll ever have, and it's not the worst tasting thing you'll ever have because it quite frankly tastes like nothing. So I feel like quite the middle of the road between 1 and 5 is the exact place that Mickey Ultra needs to end up. So,
All right. With that, we're going to reset our glasses, pour our next ones, be back at you for segment number 4. All right, Doss, I'm going to need you to show that to the camera again.
Okay, here we go.
Look at that. Look at that. The boys learned how to pour. Welcome back to BYO Beats Podcast, your beer and music podcast. This is segment 4, the acquired taste segment. We got IPA.
Yeah.
IPA. I love when we have blanket categories like this.
Me too.
Because it's very easy. And it's more fun. Yeah. Everyone gets like their local and
it's very easy to shop for too. Like it's yes.
So I've got the IPA from Melvin. The Melvin IPA. From Melvin Brewing out of Alpine, Wyoming.
You guys remember the live action Scooby-Doo movie?
How could I ever forget that?
You remember when they call the place and they're just like, "You got a call for Mr. Doo here?" And he's like, Melvin Doo? Nah, Scooby. So anytime I hear Melvin or Doo, I always think Melvin Doo. But anyway, so I wanted to make this an acquired taste for myself also, because this is a little much for me because IPAs were never my strong suit. So I have a double dry hopped Boss Tweed, and this like I don't know if it made the cut or not. But the Michelob Ultra, when I opened it, was like a little dank smelling. This is on another level. It smells like there's weed in here. It really does. I know there's not, but I don't know. The name Boss Weed,
Yeah, they weren't exactly subtle with that one.
Right.
Like, it's like remove the T, you got the gist, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm drinking. Actually, I was telling. This is the beer that I referenced earlier as a bit of surprise to Nathan.
Gotcha.
It's from Fatheads Brewing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it is the Groovy Juice IPA. And the story behind Fatheads is that they used to do very cheap wing nights when we were all really poor on Mondays and wanted to go watch football and eat wings and drink beer. And Nathan and I would go to Fatheads, probably at least every other Monday, probably sometimes a lot more than that.
Yeah. I mean, I probably went every other. You and Austin Merriman, who has always also been on the show.
Oh, he's on the show? Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
I think he was like episode 4 or 5 or
He
something.
was pretty early, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
But yeah, it was a big thing for us three. Jonah Weller, who's also been on the show, used to go with us once in a while. Yeah, that was pre-COVID. So to put it in perspective, we got to Pittsburgh September of 2019. So we had probably the most socially positive semester of college that I've ever had.
It was amazing.
Like, we had so many friends that had like ways for us to have fun. Like, people had big houses or access to big houses. Like, and we'd play pool in the graduate like center that the university had. It was crazy. And then we come back for the next semester. We play Mahler 5, which we were just like, we're about to have another great semester. Then we go home for spring break, and then that was pretty much it. Me and Matt, we tried one more venture of music together. It was it was called
Big Fat Slice.
God.
Matt was one of 2 trumpet players in that, and we were biting off more than we could chew with that project. I'll just
Pun
say
intended.
yes, for Big Fat.
Yeah,
Big Fat Slice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember asking Matt, being like, "Hey, can you like make a video for us?" And he's like, "I've literally never done that." And I was like, "Well,
so in short, no."
Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh, I forgot about that. That pulled out of the deep recesses, man.
Yeah. Well,
no,
man, the only reason I remember it is because, like, me and Austin worked probably too hard on something we knew was not going to be able to work. Well, at the time, we didn't know how long COVID was going to last. So it could have worked if we had resumed school, like, within a couple months, like they were telling us. So, but anyway, we've got more important things to talk about.
Maybe one day Big Fat Slice will be revived.
We'll see about it. It's
presented by BYO Beats.
Jonah has suggested it once or twice.
Lord.
And I was just like, well, I think we need to like make a better plan than last time if we're gonna really do this. And like, he had just started his doctorate, and I was like, I think you should probably finish that before we jump into another
endeavor,
serious thing. Like, yeah.
I don't mean to hijack a podcast that is not mine at all, you know, except like honestly, like, kind of my answer for why this is a guilty pleasure beer like coincides with like COVID, you know. So like
acquired taste, right?
Yeah, acquired taste.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. Yeah. Acquired taste. Yeah. So like, I was gonna say, like, I think actually like something that would interest me as a guest is to like, I mean, obviously I was around the pandemic times with Nathan, you know, but like the kind of like Johnny, like if you have anything to add about what those times were like for you and stuff, you know. So like, yeah. So like, I mean, I'll say like, yeah, like this Fatheads beer. I didn't like IPAs the first times I ever tried them. I thought they tasted like horse piss, to be frank, you know. Not that I know what horse piss tastes like, but back then I thought it tasted like an IPA. But then when we went up to Pittsburgh, there was a really cool beer bar that was near me. Did I ever go to Independent Brewing Company with you, Nathan?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say D's, the Wayne place, but no, I never went to Independent with you.
Okay,
yeah, I remember you always wanted to, and we could just never line it up so that it would
right.
work.
Yeah, it was a very small beer bar with like 1 4 or 5 seat bar and then like 2 tables.
Wait a minute. Did they have like really specialty cocktail drinks too?
Yes.
You know what? I did go with you guys once. We were just there for like a very short time.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that was the place that got me into IPAs, because at first I started liking double IPAs, and then yeah, like that was also around the time the pandemic hit and stuff. So like it's funny to hear Nathan talk about the big flat slice thing and all that, because like I'd be curious to like hear what you guys think. But like honestly, my memories of the pandemic were just kind of around like the pandemic hit, and like then I moved home for like 6 months with my parents. Um, and like I was just taking online lessons and trying to survive and like Instacarting and doing all that stuff. And then we moved back up to grad school, and like you said, it's like that positive semester and that positive thing that we were ever going on, like life changed,
Yeah.
like nothing was ever the same kind of for the next probably year. I don't know. I don't know if you felt the same way, Nathan, but
I thought more than a year, but that's because that following year was when I started my master's, so I was there an
right.
extra year. But like, yeah, nothing could be the same because people were so afraid. And
hmm
that's the thing, is when people are afraid of something that you can't tell them is irrational or not, you can't really blame them, you know.
Yeah.
So that was my mentality through the whole pandemic, was if people are just trying to be more safe, I have no qualms with you. If you're the one that's trying to tell other people that you're not allowed to make yourself as safe as you feel like you need to be, that's when I'm going to have a problem with you.
hmm
But
And you
that,
were working at a grocery store, I think, back in those
yeah,
times, right? So
yeah.
you were on like the front lines of all of that.
And I mean, this has been said on the show. Without the pandemic, the show never happened.
Really?
Yes, really. Because I lived at home. I lived in Pittsburgh for a summer, and everyone that I was living with went home. So they were just paying rent over the summer while I was living there by myself. And this was the house that we had in Allentown. I don't know if you ever saw the house.
Yeah. Yeah, because that would have been my second year of school. You're also second, but your first year of master's.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone was gone that summer, and I was working the beer and wine section at the grocery store, and I brought a specific 6-pack home and drank the whole 6-pack while laying in a hammock on our front porch while listening to music on a Bluetooth speaker that was just playing all the way up while I'm on the porch. And it's just like, I wonder if I'm pissing my neighbors off by playing music that I like. I was like, you know what? I'll bet you some of them like it, and the others probably just don't care. Yeah.
Yeah, IPAs are a fun journey. I feel like it's been a long time since I've had a plain IPA. Like IPAs are just like, they have such a great like baseline to go all different crazy places, but plain IPAs are nice every once in a while. So with that, let's move on to the music, because I'm kind of stoked to talk about this. We have a selection from Strauss, and this piece is called Ein. Oh my gosh, I can't read my own handwriting.
Heldenleben.
Yes, Ein Heldenleben.
Yes.
I missed the L when I was writing it.
Okay.
I was like, Heldenleben. That's not right. That's not a word.
Yes.
Ein Heldenleben, a piece by Strauss. So we're listening to the first movement, which I believe is just called Der Held.
First section. It is one continuous piece.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
the first track, if you go to the thing on Spotify, it's the first track. The section called Der Held, the hero.
Yeah. Are you going to talk about the piece of music very much, or is it?
Oh no, we will.
We'll talk about it.
Okay,
after.
cool.
But we're gonna take a break and listen to it, and be right back. So we just listened to the first section of Ein Heldenleben, Der Held. So this is by Strauss. Translated, that's a hero's life, and the first section is the hero. So Strauss, that was an awesome listen. Matt, can you kind of talk about how that's your acquired taste?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of just my acquired taste because like classical music came to me a little later in life than some other people, but Ein Heldenleben was one of those pieces to where when it finally came to me, it was just like unable to be put down. And I can talk a lot. Like, I want to hear about you guys' opinions on it before I like just turn into a mayor of Yapperville over here. About how much I love Ein Heldenleben because it's like my favorite piece of music ever. Except it's very special to me for like a lot of reasons.
Yeah, this is more as a horn player a bane of my existence kind of piece, because so that you mentioned about there's a certain trumpet call that every conductor you've ever played this with has had like a bone to pick with it, basically, and then when you hear it back, you don't even hear it represented. That's kind of what the opening tutti. That's Italian for everybody. But the
QT.
the opening call with the cellos and basses, there is just, I believe, the principal horn player playing the same lick, and it's so freaking hard. And it's because it's a written cello part, like it's written to be able to be jumping around all over the place. I'm not very good at it, so it's just gotten worse and worse for me to have to figure out how to make my playing consistent enough to have it happen. The last time I had to play it was an audition with Flint Symphony, and every time I played it in the green room went fine. And I played my worst take, not just that day, but probably ever.
Been there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like it was nerves, but it was just like, you know what? Fuck you, Heldenleben.
Oh man, I had a similar experience. So this was my junior year in college. I was helping some freshmen with the block audition for SMB, and they kept getting this one part of, was it State Fanfare, Spartan Fanfare?
Probably State Fanfare.
State Fanfare. The thing we play it right when we come in, right after kick step in. This is what we play. There was two measures that they kept getting the rhythm wrong. Yeah. And I was working with them for like an hour trying to get them to fix it, and I finally got them fixed. But then I go in for my block audition, and then I screwed it up. I had been in the band for 2 years. I played State Fanfare 100 times, and of course I was like, I screwed up. And then I just looked at Joey, and I'm like, I was just helping these two freshmen with it, and that's how they played it, and now I can't get it out of my head. Because of course we were so tired during preseason and everything. It was, we all had a good laugh about it. I don't remember if it was, I think it was actually Dr. Thornton who was like the staff in the room with us too.
Oh,
I
really?
played it and I just looked and I was like, I'm so sorry, guys. But yeah. And when it comes to Heldenleben, I'm not a classically orchestra musician person. I'm on the happy side of the audience where I just get to listen. And oh my gosh, what a great piece. I'm so excited. I'm going to listen to this whole thing tomorrow. I'm super stoked about it. This is my favorite type of classical music, where it's very, and I love the dynamic ranges in real life, but we had this discussion, I think with, I think it was Nicole, how listening to classical music on like streaming services sucks because you have to have your hand on the volume to be able to hear the stuff. Because when the band orchestra performers get quiet, you have to crank the volume to be able to hear it because everything gets normalized to stream.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. My cat wants in my lap. Just kidding.
Yeah. And so many times you miss out on the color of sound of what you're listening to, and you just get a bit of like decibel.
Mm-hmm.
Like the color of the sound is felt in the room. And that's what's so incredible. You're so right about music like this.
Yeah, but with this, I thought it translated really, really well. I mean, I was able to feel things just listening to it, which is hard to come by in streaming classical music. So I'm super stoked on this.
I would say
Yeah.
that's his ability to write melodies that are just captivating. Like my personal favorite tone poem. So this is categorized as a tone poem. For those that don't know, it's not a symphony necessarily. So it's something that he's well, it depends on which tone poem you're talking about. Some he's taken influence from literature. Some he's just stories that he's created himself. But this one, I believe, is his own story. If people say that's about him,
Mm-hmm.
It's his own
It is.
hero's journey.
yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing about Strauss is a lot of people are just like he's pretty full of himself to write a piece or several pieces that are technically the subject is him. But I mean, we were talking about Patrick Mahomes earlier. I think we were on a break.
Yeah.
Like how he very much likes himself, like a little bit too much. I feel like that can translate to other professions, and in this case, Richard Strauss thought a shit ton of himself. So this piece is so good in a sense because he likes himself so much.
So yeah, to piggyback off that for a second, that is like the first time I ever heard Ein Heldenleben when I did a simple Wikipedia search on it. That's what kind of came up about it. I was like, oh, so this guy is a narcissist. Cool. You know, very, very, very cool. And that's kind of what I thought of this piece for a long time. And like I said, I liked Ein Heldenleben. The melody stuck with me, but I guess like I didn't get to this, but now I'm kind of getting into it. The reason that it's an acquired taste for me is because for a long time, this wasn't even my favorite of all the Strauss tone poems. I always like when I for a long time I always liked Alpine Symphony more. I always liked Don Juan more, except I had the wonderful fortune of getting to play this back in February of 2024 now with the Florida Orchestra and their music director, who is a wonderful interpreter of classical music. I mean, and this guy, he had a completely fully fleshed out interpretation of Ein Heldenleben. And I'll keep it short. Except basically like they do a concert at this orchestra's weeks to where when they have a masterworks week, they call it an inside the music, where the conductor like talks to the audience about the piece and they have the orchestra play things and talk about it and say what it means, and then when you put the whole thing together at the end after hearing the orchestra break it apart and play it, like the audience actually understands what they're listening to, which is awesome. And one of the fun things about that is that he doesn't exactly say those things to the musicians in the rehearsals. You know, it's just like sharp, flat, rushing, dragging, you know, like do this, except, but then when you get into this inside the music concert and he starts talking, you get to hear his interpretation of this. And his interpretation of Ein Heldenleben was that it's about Strauss, because it is. But the reason that the critics keep coming back, because we talked about this in the break, actually, I should elaborate. The movement after the one that Johnny recommended is called the critics movement. Okay, so it's the hero's adversaries, which to Strauss was his critics, people who criticized his work. Strauss was like haunted by those critics. And as you listen to the piece of music, the critics keep coming back. And it'll be at times to where like Strauss will describe his wife because there's the hero's companion, and then at the end of the hero's companion, before the battle scene, there's the critics. At the end of the battle scene, you hear the hero's theme, and then you hear the critics. And then at the end of every single thing, you hear the critics. So this conductor's specific interpretation of Ein Heldenleben was that it's not about Strauss being full of himself. It's Strauss musically expressing that he's a seasoned composer who's really successful and like 50 years old and still hasn't found a way to healthily cope with criticism.
Oh, wow.
I like that. I like that a lot more than just saying he just doesn't like it. He likes himself too much.
Yeah.
So.
And there's a moment, you know, and there's a movement in there called the Heroes Works of Peace. A section, I should say, not a movement, because it's through composed, continuous. And in the hero's works of peace, Strauss quotes himself and quotes a lot of his other. He quotes a
Don
bunch of his
Quixote.
tone poems, Don Quixote. He quotes Don Juan. That's the opening of the hero's works of peace. He quotes Till Eulenspiegel a couple times. Um, the biggest one that he quotes in the entire hero's works of peace was he quotes this opera called Guntram that nobody has ever heard of because at its premiere it completely flopped. And he quotes it like something like 30 times. You can look it up on Wikipedia. And it's to the point where like I've never listened to it, honestly. I don't know what it sounds like, except he quotes it 30 times. And it's because he cannot cope with the fact that something he did was not successful.
Mm.
And then at the end of the hero's works of peace, the theme that takes over is Don Quixote, which is a story about a person who is driven to madness.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the Don Quixote theme ends, you hear the critics.
Hmm.
So, like, what made this an acquired taste for me was me kind of realizing that this isn't like a dude expressing his narcissism. It's actually a very sad person who has come to the realization that, like, he's late in his life and he has still not found a way to cope with criticism, no matter how successful he is. And that's deeply human, as a
For sure.
musician and as a person, that's something that we all have to live with every day, regardless of what you do. Like your boss tells you that you're not doing something adequately to their standards in life, and you're like, I was trying my best. It's like, whatever, and it's hard to cope with that. So hearing that someone that successful struggles with the same things that we struggle with, like in everyday life, is just deeply human. And as soon as like I had that experience playing that piece, all of a sudden it was a acquired taste of like, now it's not even just my favorite Strauss tone poem, but that's like my favorite piece of music literally ever, and I've gotten to play it a couple times since, and just every time, no matter what, I'm just like, oh, and I still get the butterflies every time.
Wow. Do you have a favorite section?
Of Heldenleben?
Yeah.
The funny thing, and we were talking about this a second ago about how like the thing that ropes in everybody to that piece is if you go to, I believe it's the fourth section, it's called it's the battle scene, is what everybody calls it. I forget the exact title in German. I think it's the fourth section. That's what ropes everybody in because it's a lot of fireworks and it's really loud and it's really fast and like there's a lot of hard stuff for every single instrument. But every time I play Heldenleben now, I find a new favorite section.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's always the more tender stuff, like the first time I played it back in February, like about a year ago, with the Florida Orchestra, my favorite section that I found was the hero's works of peace. When he quotes himself and you hear all the themes weave into each other, and then when the conductor said that about him going mad, that like really spoke to me, But then I played it a couple months ago with the Jacksonville Symphony. And then when I was playing that, I found that my favorite section was the part about Strauss's wife. So like the third movement is the hero's companion, and it's a really long concertmaster solo that is designed to represent Strauss's wife. And there's a lot of stuff you can read into about it. Like it's a really fun read and like listen to, like to think about that in mind, But then I played this a couple weeks ago in Orlando. And then all of a sudden my favorite section was the first section, like the part where you introduce the hero. So honestly, like I'm kind of figuring at this point, it's like all the music is just so good that like at some point, like you fall in love with all of it, and some section and the piece at like some random minute marking that's just the most beautiful melody or counter melody or harmony or anything you've ever heard. And that's what makes a masterpiece, is when every second of it is just like unbelievably riveting. Man, I could yap about how much I love Heldenleben for hours, except I don't want to destroy the rest of this podcast.
That's all right. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's actually
All right.
that's a good stopping point. Let's get to our ratings and we'll move on. So this was just the plain old IPA segment. So I had the Melvin IPA from Melvin Brewing, and I gotta say, this is kind of harkening back to the first segment with the Sprucey Spruce, where I got to the bottom of the glass and I'm like, man, I'm at the bottom of the glass. I said it before, I haven't had a plain IPA in a long time. And this is a really good one. I will definitely be looking for Melvin more in my future. And because it's Wyoming, I shouldn't have a hard time finding it. So I'm stoked on that. I'm going to the 4.5 again.
Nice. So this Boss Tweed double dry hopped. I didn't read this part before. It's a hazy double IPA. I wish I would have saw that before. I probably wouldn't have picked it. I would have picked a regular IPA. But this was extremely hoppy for a double. So I think it counts. I was happy with it. And that's probably because it was a double. I talked to a friend recently that I think we'll have on the show for next season, once or twice actually, because I want him.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I want him to teach us about beer, and he's about to start his degree in brewing science at Auburn University.
Wow.
And he was telling me about how the difference between double IPA and single IPA is generally the amount of sugar or the different sugars that you put into it, and that creates the more malty, less hoppy flavors.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I was just like, that makes so much more sense than it just having more malt, because like that malt you would think would go more towards a lager type taste. But yeah, I'm definitely getting the sweetness of the sugar that he was telling me about in this. I'm going with a 4.25. I would go back through this for many times, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. For the groovy juice, the fat heads, honestly, drinking this, it's even better kind of than I remembered it being when we used to go to Fatheads.
Yeah.
Like it's very smooth. It's got a good front, a good middle, and a good back. And out of all the beers so far, when I finished my like half to 2/3 pour of it, this is the only one that when I got done with that pour, I was like, I kind of want some more. So because of that, I got to give the Groovy Juice a 5.
Awesome. So that will conclude our episode for this week. Remember, if you like the episode, make sure you give us a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit us up on social media. So we're on Facebook, Instagram at BYOBeats_podcast. We're also on Twitch for live streams. If there's a bonus week on a bonus Wednesday that we would normally post, chances are we're live streaming. So twitch.tv/BYOBeats_podcast. We also try and do that about once a month. So just keep an eye on our Instagram. That's that's where we will announce when we are streaming. That's the best way to keep in touch social media wise. If you have a suggestion for a beer, music, anything, you just want to get in touch, email is also great, byobeats.business@gmail.com. Hit us up. I think that's all the things. YouTube, Spotify.
Yes.
We're going to rinse out our glasses. What? Oh, yeah.
Everything's
Everything
in the description.
Yep,
If you
and
forgot.
the link tree. Link tree is
Yeah.
great. That's all of our stuff. We're going to rinse out our glasses, pour our next ones. Be back at you next week for the last 2 segments.